Okay, well, I'm sure most of you have had a chance to review your results. Level 1 is done, and Tuesday, everybody found out. So this is at the top of the screen. I got a clip from the release that they put out. 16,000, roughly almost 17,000 candidates sat for level 1 in February. That's low. Typically, if we take the whole year and just divide by 4, assuming a uniform distribution, I would say that is low. But maybe more candidates sit in May and August. Maybe. 38% passed. That's still not back to the 2018, 2019 levels of mid 40s. But back then, you could not defer your exam. You had to, if you registered for an exam, you either wrote or you didn't show up. So the passing score was based on everyone who actually sat and wrote. Well, now you can defer, and I think there is an issue with those who defer. At least I can thinking about the types of students when I was teaching, the types of students who would be, and I'm using air quotes here, who would be sick for the exam. They were never the A students. So I think there might be something with the students who defer, not all of them, but those who defer, who are not prepared, probably face the next exam the same way again, that they actually don't do very well. I think there might be something there. So gotta sort of take that with a grain of salt. Anyways, this screen is for those of you who passed. I've got 3 screens to get through. This is for those who passed. The next one is for those who did not even sit for the exam, and the last ones are for those who did not pass. If you hover your mouse over the timeline at the bottom of the video, YouTube is great for this, you can see the chapters and you could just fast forward to the section you want. So you're moving on to level 2. If you passed, you got August 2023 or November. August early registration is closed. The deadline for registering for August is May 9th, but there is no early registration anymore. If you're taking November, early registration is May 10th, and the deadline is August 8th. I seem to lean towards, if it were me, I'd be leaning towards November, only because, well, there's a summer coming up. And if I'm like many of you, I'm in my mid-20s, and combine mid-20s with a summer, and how much studying am I really going to get done, right? So the thing about November is it's low cost, plus I get the gift of time. If you're thinking about 2024, you're not going to bother with 2023 because you like the practical skills modules. You see them in 2024. The first registration for 2024 is May. You're not going to see that until August of 2023, which you may be comfortable with. Remember, the practical skills modules that you'll see at level 2 are Python, the advanced Python, but you'll also have access to the beginning Python module, which level 1 candidates would see in 2024. And then you have analyst skills. I'm not sure if the financial modeling module that's available in 2024 for level 1 will be made available for level 2 at the same time. I don't know. I'm not saying no. I'm not saying yes. I'm saying I don't know. If you are going to wait a period of time, like if you're waiting for 2024 but you don't want to lose connection, the 2023 level 1 archive, if you had your level 1 subscription through markmeldrum.com, you do get the archive. The archive is available through the app, so you can review certain readings that you believe will be helpful at level 2. We do have a list of that. If you just go to our homepage, click on CFA, and then just call up the level 2 subscriptions. If you scroll down in orange, it will say see how the level 1 readings reference level 2, or how the level 2 readings, reference level 1. It'll give you a grid of the important readings in level 1 that if you wanted to go back and review while you're waiting for August to come around, you can do that. But to the 38% of these 17,000 candidates who passed, congratulations, welcome to level 2. Now you just have to decide whether it's August, whether it's November, or 2024. Okay, this is for the candidates who did not sit for the exam. and the next screen will be for those who did not pass. And over the years, in talking to a number of candidates who either did not sit or did not pass at multiple levels, the reasons why tend to cluster around some big reasons. So I've sort of drawn out as best I can the type of clustering that is most common, and we'll see if any of this helps you determine which of these alternatives you fit into and what you should do from this point. So you did not sit, and usually it's one of three big reasons. You weren't prepared, and you felt, well, what's the point? I'm not going to pass anyways. I know I'm not going to pass, so why should I go in and torture myself for 5 or 6 hours at a testing center? So you just simply weren't prepared, or this happens, life, right? You make all the plans you want, your days are filled, and suddenly life shows up and sidelines you. Well, then there go those plans. There goes the gym. There goes the 3 hours of studying you were going to do every single night. You had everything planned out, and this pesky thing called life shows up. Well, okay, life happened. It's really easy at this point. It's okay, well, are you going to write in August, November, or are you going to go for 2024? I'm going under the assumption that you were all, that your goal was set to write the exam, except life showed up. The other cluster is you simply just got detached along the way, where you were preparing for it, and somewhere along the way you said, you know what, I don't want to do this, and you simply just stopped. Let's deal with the not prepared. Those who are not prepared, again, this is a sort of a cluster analysis here. It's usually a time management issue or a motivation issue. For motivation, we have to ask why that motivation wasn't there, and not going to really answer that till the next screen, because motivation is an issue for not passing as well, and there we ask why and explore it a bit more. But we'll just put a pin in that and say, well, if it was your motivation, I'll see you on the next screen. If it was time management, it's either that you had too little time, you started late, you said, well, I know there's 2 months to go for the exam, but I'm going to see what I can do. I can pull it off. You started too late, and, well, now you know, right? Or you started with enough time, you simply underestimated the size of level 1. If you want to have a good idea of what's in level 1, imagine this. Imagine an undergrad semester, and probably a year 2 course, because level 1 really is what we in university will call a survey course. It's a bunch of declarative knowledge. It's about knowing what. Not so much knowing how or knowing when, but a lot of knowing what. So you go through all of the asset classes, all of the quantitative tools, and it's really stuff that you see early in your university career. But imagine a whole semester. You have a 5-course semester. And during the course of the semester, you have midterms, you have assignments, you have final exams. Well, imagine your entire semester, you had nothing to submit except one exam at the end of the semester, tested you on all the courses, all in one exam. That is the equivalent of level 1. It is equivalent to a semester, a second year, maybe a first year / second year course at undergrad. So it's easy to underestimate the sheer size of this. But once you start with it and you start going through it, you may start to look ahead and go, oh, I'm not making any progress at all. I'm done 3 sections and it's been 7 weeks. I got 5 weeks to go before I thought I had enough time. So either you started late, you knew it was big, you started late, or you simply just underestimated the size of level 1. Well, guess what? These are fixable, right? You can fix that. You'll learn your lesson. So you're really thinking August or November. Notice I got the check mark around November because I think the gift of time makes sense. I think having fun in the summer, especially in your mid-20s, makes a lot of sense. And the lower cost makes a lot of sense. Maybe you didn't underestimate the size of level 1 and you started with enough time, but you got too much going on. You can write level 3 while you're still in university. You can write level 1 while you're still in university. And I think that unless you had a very comprehensive undergrad and you were at a school that had a nice mix in the finance department, so that you could take a fixed income course, you could take an equity course, maybe you had portfolio construction, some statistics as well, corporate finance, and you've seen most of level 1 before, then okay. But if not, I mean, you're trying to be a full-time student and trying to study for the CFA at the same time. And I just said CFA is equivalent to a full semester. I mean, you're probably hurting yourself. So you've got uni going on. You're trying to get the CFA done. And let's not forget that you're still busy being young. There's a whole bunch of stuff that comes with being young. Other people. Number one, other people. There are parties, there are clubs, there are places to go, there's friends to hang out with. Spend some time being young. Don't forget to put that in your schedule when you're figuring out, well, how much time have I got? I see schedules sometimes so packed with stuff. I think, where's the time to be young? Where's the time for life to show up? Not only life to show up, where's the time for you to go out and grab life? And let me tell you something, looking back in time from where I am right now, that's the more important part. Think of me as your future self speaking back at you. Don't forget to be young. All right? There's no point in loading all this stuff on your plate. So maybe wait. Just maybe wait. I mean, you tried. You didn't make it because you didn't sit for the exam. You had too much going on. Maybe wait. And here's a nice quote. The road is long with many a winding turn. Let's see who can find out where that reference is from. Yes, it is from a song, but let's see if you can find out where that reference is from. You know what? Now that we have Google, it's just not that challenging anymore. It's not as if somebody could look at it and go, oh, I know that song. No, you could just Google Google the line and say, oh, it came from here. Now, but see if you know where it's from off the top of your head. The last one requires, some kind of conversation here. You simply just got detached. But you did start it. You were drawn to it for some reason. You couldn't have been confused about what it was. You knew what it was. It's specific to the finance industry, so you must have had an eye towards going there. So something happened along the way in which you got detached. And listen, I can remember in my undergrad taking some courses. You have to sign up for courses. You have to register for your courses before the semester starts. And you'd read the description of some courses and you think, oh, this one sounds interesting. So, you have some electives over the year. You have the required courses. You got no choice. You got to take those. But your electives, you got some choice. The CFA is just one big giant elective. You don't have to do it. You chose to do it. So you sign up for these electives, and then you get a professor who just completely beats all the excitement out of the course to the point where you just can't wait for it to be over and you never want to see it again, because the teaching was so bad or the professor was so dry or so boring that you never want to even read another book associated with it. And then I've had some courses where, look, you got to take a humanities course, so everyone takes 20th century history, at least where I was. Everyone took 20th century history. And the professor I had for history, my God, what a storyteller. He made that course come alive. I couldn't wait to show up to that course. Changed my life. It really did. It made me see the world in a different way. So it might have something to do with that. Maybe you tried to pull this off on your own, and well, let me tell you, these aren't picture books. They're not exciting. They're not page turners. So maybe you tried to go it on your own, or maybe you didn't have the best instruction on the way through, and you just became detached. So maybe you liked the industry, but you didn't like the studying. Maybe you just didn't like the topics. You're not really into finance and you're moving on. If you got detached because of this, you started with it and you said, you know what, this isn't for me. Well, that's great. Life is a road of self-discovery, and you discovered something that this is not for you. You don't like it. You can move on without feeling that you started something that you didn't finish. You did finish it. You came to the conclusion that this is not for me. Maybe you said, I don't see the value in this. Lots of people don't have it, which is true. There are literally tens of thousands of people in finance who are successful who do not have those three letters. And not to leave it at just the fact that there are these 3 letters that mean so much. There are literally thousands of people with the 3 letters who are not successful. So the charter is neither a sufficient nor necessary condition for success. But when I hear people say, and the reason I write this down is because, again, with everyone I talk to over the years, you hear certain things again and again. I don't see the value in it. Lots of people have it, or lots of people are in finance and they don't have it. Yeah, but lots of people don't go to the gym too, so you should stop doing that. Lots of the people don't have a university degree either. You should stop doing that. We do these things because there are few who have it. That's why. There are, I think, 170,000 charter holders in the whole world. After how many years, four decades of having the charter, 170,000 in the world. We do it precisely because it is a select group, because there are a few. So even though I've heard this before, I don't really see the value in it. Lots of people don't have it. I think that's not really a reason to become detached. I think that's a justification. That you became detached and then you justified it as, well, I just don't see the value in it. You may conclude, well, this is redundant. I already have a degree in finance. And that may be true. If you have a degree in finance from a tier 1 school, the chances are this is probably redundant. There's probably a lot of this that you've seen before. Probably except for level 3. Level 3 is very, very applied. And even if that were the case, here's the thing about letters behind your name. Never, ever underestimate the impact it has on other people. And in this world, we get places to where we want to go to, partly because of what we do, but partly because people want us to succeed, or we have people along the way that allow us to succeed. Never underestimate the impact that this has on other people and other people's willingness to want to be around you and do business with you because of those things. It is a market signaling device, much like any degree is a market signaling device, but this is very specific to the finance domain. So listen, I think the only valid reason for putting a pin in it, not putting a pin, but closing the book on this and walking away saying I'm done is this one right here. You don't like the topics. You're not really that into finance, and you're just moving on. Maybe you felt that, well, I got a finance degree or an undergrad, and what am I going to do? I guess I'll take this to try to get a job, and you started it and you said, I don't like this. Great, it's done, it's over, you figured it out. A lot of life is not about knowing what road to go down. It's about going down all the roads and then learning, okay, well, I've been down that road, I know not to go down that road, it was a dead end for me. So you're never left wondering 10 or 15 years later, what if I did this? What if I did that? Try it. You tried it, you didn't like it, you moved on. I think this is the only valid reason for becoming detached. If you like the industry but you don't like studying, I would say perhaps it was the way in which you were studying, like having that one professor that beats all the fun out of a course for you. If you're saying, I just don't see the value in it, lots of people have it, I think you're justifying why you want to stop. A justification is not a reason. It's what it is. You're justifying the behavior or the act you took because you're not comfortable with the act in itself. You need a justification. Okay, let's move on to those that did not pass. Okay, did not pass, 62%. When CFA reports, by the way, that 38% passed, that is the 38% who actually sat for the exam. So they reported that almost 17,000 people sat for the exam. The last screen I did, you did not sit. You are not counted in that 17,000, nor are you counted in the pass rates. So it is only those who wrote. So there's 62%, which is still too high, is much too high. And it usually comes down to two groups. I was prepared, or at least the candidate feels they were prepared, or they know they weren't prepared. when they know they weren't prepared, that's easy to work with because they pretty much have an idea of why they didn't pass. I wasn't prepared, and they know why they weren't prepared. Now, I say that it's two categories here, two clusters, was prepared and was not prepared, because you did actually go in and write the exam. It's not the same as saying, well, I didn't sit for the exam. When you didn't sit, it could be that you just had become detached from the content. But here I'm making the assumption you didn't detach from the content because you actually went in and wrote it. So it really breaks down into the two. Let's deal with you were prepared, but you did not pass. And this is quite common. You know, I put in the hours, I did this, I did that, I don't know where I went wrong. So you went wrong somewhere in the process or somewhere in the expectation. The process, perhaps your process was too linear. You know, I did quant, then I did this, then I did that, then I did this, and I went through the whole curriculum. Well, what is common when you follow a very linear approach is that by the time you get to the last module, you'll have forgotten pretty much everything from the first module. But when you were done quant and you went through the end of chapter questions and you were testing yourself to see if you understood it, you probably in that moment, in that proximity in time, understood it quite well. But time is an eraser. And it will erase things that you've learned unless you repetitively revisit them, which means that during your process, your linear process, you should have had some recursive learning where you go back and you review the sections you've done to continue on. And you don't got to spend that much time reviewing, nor do it that often. About every 7 days, it should be one day where you put aside where you say, okay, I'm just going to run through my notes. You're not going to relearn it. You're just going to run through your notes, and it keeps that in memory much, much longer. So maybe your process was too linear. Maybe it was not distributed. Distributed means you're going to do more than one thing. Some people like to cycle through all the videos, then they say, okay, well, I'm going to do questions at the end. I'm going to go through the video first, learn everything, then come back and do questions. Listen, when you get to numbers, when you get to sections or readings with numbers and formulas, you're not going to remember them. You have to work them. It's very different than remembering a formula and actually trying to put one into play, using them and working with the numbers. Another great form of distributed learning is don't go section by section. Have 2 or 3 sections at the same time so that you have variety. Because you're going to get bored with quant in about an hour and a half. You're going to get bored with it. You know, and maybe you have a 3-hour block. Well, that last hour and a half is going to be low productivity unless you switch to a different topic and it's fresh and it's new and it's exciting and different. And your brain says, some novelty. This is better. Or maybe you felt that what you were learning was too disconnected from practice. You know, for some people who've never dealt with derivatives before, or maybe it's your first time seeing fixed income, or maybe it's the first time seeing options. It might be very disconnected from the real world where you think, okay, I don't know what's going on here. So it's so abstract that you're just trying to memorize your way through it, but you don't conceptually see what's going on. Finance has a lot of that stuff, especially when you get to derivatives, especially when you get to some of the fixed income stuff, that unless you've worked with it before or unless you actually do work with it, it can seem really abstract. Common things that are said here is I keep forgetting things I learned earlier. So when the exam came around, I'd forgotten everything that I had learned early in the process. Well, that means you have to study, review, study, review, study, review, study, review. And these reviews, every time you review, it should be comprehensive, going back to the beginning. And you take 1 day a week where you say, I'm not going to move forward. I'm just going to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. And you solidify what you have, and it's these repetitive reviews, and they don't have to be long, right? You can spend just a couple hours reviewing everything. You're not doing deep dives here. It's just reviewing. You can deal with this. Concepts too abstract. Well, listen, you're going to have to find a way, as I say over here, I'll explain it more over here. You're going to have to find a way to play the game, because it's a game that happens every single day. You know, there are some people who follow a particular team, and over the course of the year, they'll spend 100 hours watching and following their team, especially if it's baseball. My God, do we really need that many games in baseball? I think football has it right. You know, you got a limited number of games and it's over. Maybe they have a limited number of games because the possibility of getting murdered on the field is so high that you really can't play 80 games. You probably only last a season and a half if you're playing 80 games, I guess. But they spend a lot of time, a lot of hours invested in their team. Well, this is a game as well. Finance is one of the most, I think, exciting games on the planet. You got to play the game. Get in there. There are lots of ways to get engaged. Open a paper account. There are Yahoo Finance, Google Finance. They allow you to have paper portfolios and just start actually trading. Get some bonds in there. Get some equity, some ETFs. Get some options in there. But actually jump into the game and start playing it. Expectations. Let's talk about this. You targeted a level of learning that was too low. So maybe as you were going through the readings, those questions in the middle of the reading might have lowered your expectations for the difficulty level on the exam, because some of those questions are just, they're easy. And you might think, oh, well, if these are the questions you're asking, this is going to be rather straightforward. So you did a lot of surface learning. Surface learning is, okay, this concept and that concept and this, but you didn't do any deeper dives on anything. So here are the first, if we look at the different, there are 6 levels of learning. These are 6 of them. The first 4. The lowest form of learning is just memorization, remembering stuff. You can remember a bunch of stuff that you may not understand. I mean, you can give me a book on advanced biology and give me a page and I could probably remember everything on that page. I can get it in my memory and I can regurgitate it. Probably don't understand what I'm talking about, but I can at least repeat stuff I read somewhere. Next level is understanding. Then it's application and then analyzing. Level 1 really focuses in this area here. Understanding and application. They got a few questions that might rely on what you can remember, and they got a few questions that go to a higher level, like analyzing. Once you get to level 2, it really starts to go from analyzing all the way up to application, analyzing, and then evaluating. Once you get to level 3, you're really at the higher levels of learning. So maybe you targeted a level of learning that was too low. Those questions sort of detracted you from the depth of the dive that you needed to make, and you probably hung out around the lower levels of learning. So you just need a different process. If you felt you were prepared, you sat for the exam, motivation wasn't an issue, there must have been something in the process. You either targeted a level of learning that was too low, or your process was too linear, was disconnected from practice and not distributed enough. Let's go to the other side here. You did not pass and you fall into the category, I was not prepared. So I have to ask the question, were you motivated or were you not motivated? If you were motivated, well then it was either a time management issue, or we can go over to the side here where it says I was prepared. It was either process or expectation. So I probably already talked about your particular cluster. This is a little bit more challenging on this one here. You weren't motivated. Now, if you did not sit and you were not motivated, well, that's consistent. But you did sit for the exam because you did not pass. So you actually went in, you wrote, you got your results, you did not pass. If I say, were you prepared? You say, no, I really wasn't that prepared. I didn't think I'd do well. Well, were you motivated? And you say, no, I kind of lost motivation. Well, then there's the question of why. Same as what we had on the last screen. You did not sit because you weren't prepared. You weren't prepared because you say, well, it wasn't time management, it was motivation. I just couldn't get motivated. Okay, let's deal with motivation. Look, level 1 is big. So is level 2 and level 3. And it is one exam, pass or fail. In an undergrad course, you got maybe a midterm, a final, 2 assignments, maybe a group project. We all love those group projects, eh? My God, oh, those waste of time. There's always that one person. You know who I'm talking about. But you had a number of ways to deliver that grade along the way. You had a whole bunch of small victories along the way, or at least things you could check off the list saying, okay, well, I got 65% of my grade done. I only have the final exam to get through. This is one exam, one big goal that is far into the future. That can be demotivating. That can be hard to keep motivated against, especially when you are a person who requires a high level of feedback. So, different techniques in which you can stay motivated. Aim for small wins and often. Rather than saying quant is 9 readings or 8 readings, think about it as I only have to do 1 reading. And that may be too big. You say, oh, this reading has 3 learning objectives or 4 learning objectives and it's 30 pages. Well, don't think about that. Think about 1 learning objective, the very first one. That is all you're going to do. That's it. That's all you're going to focus on and get it away. And don't worry about everything else. Don't focus on it. Don't have it sitting there because it's gonna weigh on you. You're going to start getting a little bit of a panic attack when you start thinking about the sheer volume of things that have to be done. Get it all out of your mind and just focus on a small, easy task. First learning objective, 6.5 pages, maybe 6 pages, and right now that's the only thing that matters. That's it, period. Small wins and often. Nothing is more addicting than success. So if you can find a way to introduce success into your life in small doses, many times a day, that's addicting. You know, the way you clean your house is not to think about, I got my whole house to clean. It's pick up one thing, cross it off the list. Have a list that says pick up one thing, and then you cross it off the list. You're going to get a little bit of a dopamine rush when you cross it off the list because you got something done, you got something accomplished. Well, you know what you're going to do next? You're going to want that feeling again, so you're going to pick up one more thing, and then one more thing, and before you know it, look what you're doing. Small wins often. Here's another big one here. Surround yourself with the proper people. Surround yourself with a peer group. We in life tend to drift in the direction of those we associate with. So if you're trying to scale a mountain, but those around you are just not interested, they will drag you down. They will steal your motivation from you. So study groups are fantastic. Not just for having multiple perspectives on a problem where you think, I know 60% of this, and somebody else knows 60%, but a different 60%, so that the combination of what you and the other person knows covers 100%. You can fill in each other's blind spots. But just for the benefit of being around like-minded people who are also scaling that mountain with you. When you see other people doing it, you see, that's called a challenge. When I think some people get confused when they say, I'm a challenging person because I disagree with people. I push back against people. That's not called being challenging. That's called being disagreeable. Being challenging is conducting yourself and living your life in a way that those around you want to be better than who they are just because of what you're doing. Not because you're poking them in the chest, telling them they don't measure up, but because of what you're doing, it makes them want to be better. You're challenging to be around because you're challenging them in that way. Surround yourself with people like that challenge you to be better than who you are without them telling you that you don't measure up. Those are just unhealthy people to be around. If you're around anyone telling you that you don't measure up, you're not good enough, just get them out of your life. That's not a healthy person to be around. Surround yourself with the right people. Form a study group. If this is the cluster that you're in, I did not pass, I was not prepared because I was not motivated. If you find yourself following that part of the tree down here to this category, then do that. Try that. Also, play the game. There's lots of opportunities to get involved in the game. Start, and don't use real money. Please don't use real money while you start. But start a paper portfolio. That's all you're going to do is just trade for fun in your paper portfolio and see how you can how well you can do. It becomes addicting. Listen, there's Bloomberg in the morning. I think if you're going to be in this industry, I don't know how you can be in this industry without being aware of what's going on at any given time in terms of economic data, in terms of what the Fed is doing, or whatever central bank is in your country, in terms of central bank, in terms of earnings and the direction of earnings and what companies are reporting earnings. I don't think that you can be successful in this field without being aware of that. And when you go in for a job interview, if you can't carry on a conversation about what's going on in the financial world at that time without being told it first, if you can't carry on a conversation, the logical question is, well, what are you doing here? You don't seem to be interested in this, because if I talk to you about your favorite sports team, I bet you could talk for hours. You know about their defense, their offense, their coaching, where they're weak, where they're strong, who's up for free agency, who's going to be traded, who's got the first round draft pick. You know all of this stuff. And this is not even your career. This is not even the field you tell me that you love. And here you are sitting in front of me wanting a paycheck, and you know nothing about the industry of which you're going to head into. Play the game. It's addicting. So these are things that can help you with your motivation. You did not pass. So you have to, figure out why it was you didn't pass. Figure out a way to fix that. And then your only decision at this point is August, November, or are you going to wait for 2024, February of 2024, because you're level 1. The next level 1 is February 2024, which I believe is May 16th. If you're going to write November, you still have early registration to the beginning of May. If you're going to write in February 2024, well, you can't really register till May 16th. That's when it turns on. You sat for the exam. So I know you don't want to quit. I know that. Otherwise, you wouldn't have sat. If you wanted to quit, you would have done it before. You wouldn't have even shown up. So you don't want to quit. You just don't want to go through this again. So figure out which side of this screen you fall on. Was it your process? Was it your expectation? Was it your level of motivation? And there are answers on the screen to help you fix whichever part of that was wrong. So that's it. I hope it helped somebody out. If you have questions, go ahead and ask them in the comment section. If I have an answer for them that is not me repeating stuff that I already said in the video, then I'll try my best to answer them. So that's it. August, November, or February. Those are your only decisions. Unless you've decided that, this thing is not for me. But make sure that you're walking away from this because you have decided that this is not for you. If you're walking away from it because of any other reason that can be fixed, let's fix the reason first, all right? And don't forget to be young.